Okay, can you see the screen, the PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, everybody. So tonight I will give an explanation from the Korbonoys. We spoke already the last year. We spoke about if we can bring Korbonoys today, and if you will bring Korbonoys in the future. We saw different opinions about that. But I wanted to explain a little bit the Korbonoys from an historical perspective. It's easy to say that Korbonoys are a primitive way of doing things based on what he used to do for Avodah Zorah. This is actually the opinion of the Rambam. And the idea behind that, I would like to elaborate a little bit more to use a bit of context, both what we see in Chazal, specifically in the Chazal, and even a little bit in the Rishonim, on the understanding of Korbonoys purely from how would I say, academic way, and not so much of a Kabbalistic way, which is maybe the next year. So maybe one of the next shiurim, I don't know when I will collect all the different opinions to understand a little bit better and to refute everything that I'm going to speak today. So today it's going to be not a feel-good shiur. I'm going to be using beliefs and understanding of the world in a way that we today have a very different understanding, and to explain you a little bit on how I see it personally. It's a very personal shiur, so it's not based on really texts that I've been taking out. So everything I'm going to say is in my personal, not opinion, but it's a personal way of seeing the things. Of course, it's a wrong opinion, because by definition we know now things that we didn't know at the time, so we must say that it is something else. So whatever I'm going to say is going to be, if you want, rubbish, but it's in any case it's a little different view of how things, how to explain the Korbonoys again in a historical perspective. And then we'll take point by point in the following shiur. It's a lot of work for me, so I have not been able to do that yet. I started a little bit, but it requires a lot of more work from this perspective. Now, to generally understand a korban is something that you bring on the mizbeach, you put it somewhere, you burn it, and then the smoke goes up into the sky. Now, what we have to understand is the worldview of the people at the time was a few points. First of all, the world was a cube. The shape of the world seems to be as a cube. Arba Kamfris Uretz. That's the first thing. I don't have a proof for that, but it seems logical to say, purely out of reasoning, Arba Kamfris Uretz, that the view of the world was that it was a shape of a cube. There is what we call a rokia, that's been explicitly said in the way that Chazal are also differentiating the rokia from the shomayim, and that the shomayim is kind of a layer, and above that, of course, there is where we could say in terms of if you want to explain it in a materialistic form, when you want to project what is purely ruchnius into something which is gashmis, it's where the Kodesh B'richu resides. So it's where the Kodesh B'richu is in the shomayim. We see continuously that when Hashem does something, it comes down from the shomayim. We say also, not only do we say Ovinu Shebashamayim, but we also see that when Eliyahu Hanavi went up in his carriage of fire, he went up to Shemaim, and then he disappeared when the fire came down to burn the two sons of Aharon. Also, the fire came down from Shemaim. So we continuously, even physically, we see things coming down from Shemaim. So it's like symbolically, but also real. We always daven, we lift our eyes, we lift, when we say Kodesh, 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 halachically we should look up. So basically, the idea that the Bonshon is in Shemaim, although we know today that the Bonshon is everywhere. It's not more in the Shemaim than it is down here. We could look any place. The Bonshon is everywhere. But in terms of understanding how to explain it to the normal person, the normal people, you need to put the Rebbeinu Shalom somewhere, and it's much easier. And it's also human beings seem to be needing to lift up their eyes and asking to Hashem. It's a necessity to have something of an authority which is higher than us, so that you look up and not look down, so that you, when you ask for something, to look up. So basically, this is the view of how it used to be. Chazal even give height, how far away is the Shemaim, and also the two corners that you have on the left side and the right side, the two corners. There is even machlokes if they're touching, if how big the difference is between them, etc. So there is a whole the whole Chazal about how do you call it, that constellation of the worldview. And this is how it has been projected, as I said, into something which is materialistic. So what we always say that that first of all, if you want to give something to Hashem, there is a need, a human need, which is to give something to Hashem. When you have received a lot of good things, you want to share back with Hashem. If you throw something up in the sky, it will fall back down, so it will not be able to reach the Shemaim. So there was only one thing which they noticed is something which goes against nature. Everything falls down. There's one thing that goes up, is the flame and smoke. And so here's a very good channel that goes up, which goes against, defies all laws, all natural laws of gravity, and it goes up, and it seems to go up and up and up, and we don't know. So we did not have like a measurement at the time, so we could only imagine that the smoke goes all the way up to the Shemaim. And so therefore, if you want to give back to the Rebbeinu Shalom, a good way is to burn it and to let the smoke go up into the sky and then reach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The question is, so what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do with that? And so the Torah says it's a chayach nichoyach. The only way Hashem can kind of consume what you have given to him is actually by the smelling, by the nice smelling. We always say Hashem can see and Hashem can hear and he can listen. So why wouldn't be able to smell? And actually, the Gemara, I have maybe even a little proof that there is such a concept of smelling as well. Of course, not to be taken literally. As I say, I have to be very careful because of the Yud Gimel Ikrim from the Rambam by what I say. So I always have to refer to it only as something which is, how do you say, symbolically, a moshel, as the Rambam says. And I already gave you a whole shir about that not everybody agrees with the Rambam at the time. And that maybe the Rambam was, together with Rabbeinu Sadi, going forefront. It was one of the first to really introduce that and making it as one of the ikrim of the das. But that in general, most people really believe that there is something up there and that there is, but this is something which I'm not going to go into the shir today. So today, it's paskin, we all paskin like the Rambam, that it is one of the Yud Gimel Ikrim, that we're not allowed to believe that. Therefore, I'm going to repeat myself many times, and I'm sorry about that. But it's I don't want to have to give a din v'cheshbon in later on. So the Gemara says that minayim shemavoch malariach shneimach kol haneshomot halilko. This is the Gemara in Brochus that says that the only thing that the neshama enjoys is smell. It is a good smell of psumin. And we know that the neshama, what is the neshama? The neshama, it says in the Tanya, and then all the Kabbalists are agreeing with that point, that the neshama is what we call a chelek elokam mimal. It's really a part of the Rebbeinu Shalom, that part of is breath of the neshama of the Rebbeinu Shalom that is within us. This is the idea of the neshama. So it's purely ruchnius, and still we see that the neshama can have a nur from smelling. So you see here that smell is clearly something which, again, from out of symbolically, the ruchnius can enjoy. And by the way, ruchnius is also wind, is also the ruach. It's also from that idea from wind and from from smoke and from smell. So the idea of giving Reach Nichoyach is not so far-fetched, because we have all kinds of elements that can bring in that context. Now, when we are looking, however, in terms of the Mizbeach, why do we need specifically kind of a Mizbeach? Now, when we are looking on the shape of a Mizbeach, that's very interesting. The shape of a Mizbeach is actually a cube. And there are, so the cube that we have of Mizbeach has also got 4 corners on all of the sides of the Mizbeach. And those 4 corners should, I think, personally, represent the world. So it represents the shape of the world. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Klal Yisrael, from now on, I don't want you to start bringing anywhere. I want it to be concentrated, and all the korbanos that you're going to give me, fine, you can give me korbanos, but it's going to have to be on one place, and it's going to be the place that I would like you to bring there. And this is going to be a Mizbeach. The Mizbeach is the shape of a cube, like I said, it's like the world. So it's as if we bring, the world is bringing, and we bring a korban, and it's as if the world of here is doing a connection with the world on top, with the Shomayim. Now, there is very interesting to say, because there's a very interesting point, which is that there are multiple worlds. So I already spoken about that. There are the worlds that is the Olam Ho'asir, which is the world that we live in. Then you have an upper world, which is Olam HaYetzirah, and then you have an upper world, which is Olam HaBeriyah, and then you have a higher world, which is Olam HaAtzilus. These are the 4 worlds that the Kabbalists have realized, and they have developed further. And in each of those worlds, there is a representation of the 10 Sephiros. So the 10 Sephiros represents the Midas of Hashem. And what is interesting, if you can look up in what kind of, you can try to search about these, and there's a lot of very interesting information that you can find. But these 4 worlds are the ones that have been the most accepted today. There are also other views that either give 4, but they give different names. So you have the Olam HaAtzilus, but you also have the Olam HaKisei, and then you have Olam HaEcholois, and then you have the Olam I can't read it here, but you have different names for these worlds. But the right way that you see on the slide is the ones that have been used the most in the Kabbalist. Atzilus, Beriyah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. It's called Aviyah. So this is the 4 worlds which are till you come to the Olam Ho'asir. There is another way which has 5 worlds, but this is another view where they add on as well the Olam Odom Kadmon, which they add on, but this is not a very accepted view. So you have 4 types of worlds, and each world has the 10 Sephiros. So I already gave you a shir on the reason why we don't say Kaddish between Goal Yisrael and the Shmoneh Esrei. One of the difficulties is between each of every time, whenever we daven something, like we say Korbonoys, between Korbonoys and the Psukkah de Zimra, we say Kaddish. Between Psukkah de Zimra and the Brochas Yotze Oyer, we do say Kaddish again, but we don't say Kaddish from Goal Yisrael and the Shmoneh Esrei. Not only don't we say Kaddish, but we also are not allowed to even make a hefsek. In as much that the Kabbalists even say one should not even let a second go between Goal Yisrael and the Shmoneh Esrei, that it should be completely, we finish Goal Yisrael straight away, we should start with Hashem Tzvosei Tiftok. So basically we have to really go and try not to make any hefsek between those 2. So the reason why explains the Arizal explains that as you can see on the right picture, the world of Asiyah and Yetzirah and etc. This is, I don't know whom, but this is not how the Arizal saw it. So, but here it seems that there are some overlap. So the 10 Sephiros from Atzilus overlaps half of it with maybe 5 Sephiros from Beriyah, and then 5 Sephiros from Beriyah is overlap with Yetzirah. So there's kind of an overlap. He explained Arizal that there is no overlap. So basically, each world has 10 spheres. The only one that is not separated but is overlapping is the world of Atzilus with the world of Bria. So the highest world is the sphere of Malchus, which is the lowest sphere, is the same as the highest sphere, which is Keser. So from the next lower world, from Bria. So there is normally each of the worlds are separated. So how do you connect them? You connect them by saying a Kaddish. So Korbonoys is the Olam HaAsir. And then to go from the Olam HaAsir to the Olam HaYetzirah, you are saying Kaddish. And then when you go from the Olam HaYetzirah to the Olam HaBriyah, you're saying Kaddish again. And then when you come from the Olam HaBriyah to the Olam HaAtzilus, you don't say Kaddish. Why? Because the highest sphere, which is Keser of Bria, is the same as the lowest sphere of Atzilus, which is Malchus. So there's it's not disconnected, but it is really one flows into the other. And so you're not allowed to say Kaddish, because then you are actually making as if there is a split, and there is no split. And therefore, the Arizal says very clearly that one should not say the Kaddish, should not be mafsik at all between those things. Now, between Klal Yisrael and Shmona Esrei. I do realize that maybe for some of you it might be new, and so if you have a question, don't hesitate, and I will try to explain you. But again, there are 4 worlds in the Kabbalist. We are living in the world of Asiyah, then there is a higher world, which is the world of Yetzirah, then there's a higher world Bria, and the higher world of Atzilus. And in each of the worlds, there is the 10 spheres. And what I explained to you is that those 10 spheres are separated. The only that is not separated is the highest one, which is when we say the Shmona Esrei, and the one from the Birkas Kriyas Shema, which is the Olam HaBriyah. And therefore, we are not saying a Kaddish between them, because they are not, we don't have to go from one to the next. They are kind of interconnected. They are like one already. And therefore, we don't say Kaddish. Now, to illustrate that, there are actually very interesting. First of all, how many cubes do you have in the Beis Hamikdash? So we have cubes again. The cubes represent the world. How many cubes do we have in the Beis Hamikdash? We have actually 3 cubes. So we have the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the big Mizbeach. Then you have the Mizbeach inside. You have the Mizbeach HaZohar. And then inside you have is the Oren. The Oren is also kind of a cube, a representation from a cube. And that cube on itself is a high in mamish in the Lifnai V'Lifnim. It's in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And if you want, I don't know, but if you want, you can imagine that the Mizbeach HaChitzon is the Olam, represents the Olam HaAsiyah. The Mizbeach HaPnimi represents the Olam HaYetzirah. And then you have the Oren, it represents Olam HaBriyah. And on top of the Oren, you have a little cube, also a shape of a cube, which is the foundation of the 2 Kruvim. The 2 Kruvim are actually what we call the Elohei Zohar. Now, I know I'm saying something very controversial, and I'm not going to elaborate on this one, but it really represents kind of, as the Kuzari explained, something, there's only image that we can have kind of that is inside the Lifnai V'Lifnim are these Kruvim, and these Kruvim are standing in the Mishkan, were standing on a cube like that, a shape also of a cube that was the Dexel, I don't know how you say it in English, the one that you put on. Sorry? The cover of the Oren. So you see here the Kapoiris was actually also shape of a cube, but it is kind of in between. So it is the foundation of the Kruvim, as you see on the left, but it's also covering those 3 worlds. So the Oren himself was also 3 boxes, one from gold, then from wood, then from gold, representing those 3 worlds. And then you have, as I said, the third, so the 4th world, between the 3rd and the 4th is actually kind of a connection between with the 4th world. So it's kind of just a cover. So because it plays a role of the bottom is kind of belongs both to the bottom part, but also belongs to the top part. As it was golden, it was attached to the Kruvim. So you see very clearly here as well, if you want. You can see this type of imagery as well in the Beis Hamikdash. So it means, in other words, that for each of those mizbechos, which is the two mizbechos and then the oren, we used to bring either an oil every morning, or we used to bring ketoros, and in Yom Kippur, when it is the holiest of the holies, we used to bring a smoke that goes up and should even cover the highest of the world. So we kind of continuously are connecting the different worlds with the upper worlds. So we're connecting this world, the Olam Asir, every morning through the Korbonoys with the smoke, and then we are connecting the Olam Bria, and then Yetzirah, and then through the Mizbeach Hazor with the Ktoros, and then once in a year we are connecting the Olam Bria with the Olam Atzilus also, and that's how we do it with the Ktoros once a year, which is the Olam Atzilus is the highest world where the Yud Gimel Midas Orachmim are, and therefore in Yom Kippur this is the whole moment of Kapora and of Slicha and Kapora, because this is also the day that indeed the Midas, the highest Midas of Rachmanis of the Rebbeinu Shalom is working, and therefore we bring the Ktoros all the way inside. So it makes a lot of sense as making a connection. The fact that making connections, that's not my invention, that's already the Rambam explains, and therefore he's very upset on the Rambam for saying what he says. And he says, no, the Korbonos are clearly making connection with other worlds. The Meshech Chochmah even gives it, he uses a modern way of explaining it as saying that this is kind of like electrics. So when you do something here, you switch on something and something goes up there, and so you have this connection with the upper world. He says it's like electric, we don't see it, but it is going straight up and is doing things which are there as well. So this idea of connecting worlds is not mine, but we can understand it better when we look in it from the perspective of time, how they used to see things and how the Kabbalists see it today as well. In a lot of things, you will come, if you look and read a little bit of Kabbalah, you will find back these worlds of Atzilus, worlds of Asir, and etc. So you will find that back. Now this is like this. With this we can understand the smoke. But what about the blood? Now blood is much more difficult to understand, because blood is, as we know, bloody. Basically, it's something which is dirty, which we represent something horrible. Why would we put blood on this? Now, what you have to understand, something which is very important, is that there is this week's Parsha actually is the loisase of eating blood. And we're not allowed to eat blood. In general, we're not allowed to eat blood. Only blood that is within the meat that we're allowed to, as long as it doesn't come out. That's why when you fry meat, when you are making a barbecue, in that case, you theoretically don't have to salt the meat. You can eat it like that, because you are kind of burning the meat from the outside, and so the blood remains inside. So as long as as long as the blood is still in the meat, one is allowed to, but not allowed to eat the blood when it comes out. So this is called dam evorim. Now there is a dam which is in the same lav, which is actually chayav kos. So not all the dam, the person is chayav kos. In this week's parsha it says kol dam, but Chazal say not kol dam, only the dam hanefesh. So there is a concept of the dam hanefesh, and if somebody eats the dam hanefesh, is chayav kos. It means, in other words, that there is you have not blood from an animal, normal blood, but you have a particular blood that is a blood that is really has some holiness around that, because this is called the dam hanefesh, and Chazal call it dam she'haneshama yoytze boy. And if somebody eats that dam, only that particular dam, there's not a lot of it. It's maybe a revis in an animal. This is hayovin all of kores and chatos. And this is also the blood, as Rashi explained it, that the mashma, the eino chayiv elo al dam, haroi lekapora lezrika ala mizbeach, ve'ein lo kores elo bedam kotchin. You only have kores in a dam which is used for the kotchin. For who? She'anefesh yoytze boy, shehu lekapora, v'chsiv b'nefesh yechaper. that you can only be mechaper with a nefesh. So you need to have a particular kind of a liquid, and this liquid has to have kind of a nefesh. And which liquid has a nefesh? It is the dam ha-nefesh, the dam where the neshama, it doesn't have a neshama, but it's kind of, it's a way of speaking of the Chazal, but it's a dam sha-neshama yotzeboy. So there is a particular blood that when the blood comes out, the behemoth dies. It means, in other words, that the behemoth, that the life went out through the dam. So there is kind of life inside this dam, and life is by definition holy, and therefore this dam is a particular liquid, and that liquid you have to, the idea when you shech the behemoth, you should take the blood and there's a mitzvah also from kind of shvicha. If you read the text literally, halachically I'm wrong, but if you read the text literally, there's an in of being shoifer the dam al oretz kamoy. So basically, the idea is to take this holy blood, holy liquid, and to put it on the world, because the world is the one that have created together with Hashem. Hashem says toitzi oretz, that he should come out, and then the world created, even the world created the human being. As the Ramban explained, Nase Odom Betzalmenu. Why does the Torah say Nase? We should do. I mean, the Rebbeinu created the humans. So the Ramban explained, no, the world created the body, and the Rebbeinu put his neshama inside the human, and he gave him the free will, the bechira, etc., everything that goes together with being a human and not an animal. And so the world has also a very important role to play in the creation of life. And so therefore, when you take away life, then you have to give back life to the world. And this is al oretz tishbechenu kamoyim. And therefore, when you have made a korban that you give back to Hashem, you also have to give back to the world. And therefore, maybe, I say it as my own malach, and maybe the idea of putting the blood on the mizbeach is as if we are putting the blood back to the mizbeach, back to the world, as the mizbeach represents the whole universe, the whole, I mean, not the universe, but the whole world, the olam that we live in. And so this holy liquid is which has life. We give back to the earth, which the earth has given us. Okay, so the Rebbeinu kind of, it came out from, and only us human, we received the neshama from the Rebbeinu, but it's the toitzi nefesh chayo, toitzi ores nefesh chayo, means that the world is given, so you have to give back. That's why also the oretz is always claiming, even when a person is being killed, in Parshas Tzav, it also says a loshon that the world claims back the blood, innocent blood, that you should claim dam nokin kirbecho, and then also it says there al oretz that resitames oretz. There is a lot of expression that the world is also kind of not injured, but is being harmed by making averas and especially killing. And so therefore there is an element of the killing also to kill the murderer, because then it's like with the sayef, because you need to have the blood come out and pour back on the world. So it's this kind of to calm down the world and not to do crazy things. That's why also you do eglo arufo. You also take the same thing and you take with the blood and you let it on the earth, and then you wash your hands with water. So this whole ritual is all the elements that the world has also something to say in here when it comes to life. And so therefore the blood, which represents, so you have here, in any case, you have something very specific. So like you have in the liquids, you have in the vegetarian liquids, the highest level of liquids is wine. Wine is considered like the king of all the liquids. Therefore, you put nesach yayin. You make nisuch hayayin on the mizbeach. But you also do a specific from the animals. The liquid is the blood, but not just the blood. It has to be the dam ha-nefesh. That's a very particular kind of blood which contains the nefesh inside and contains actually life. Now, that having been said, also, one has to understand that in the understanding of the time. So the Chazal had it very difficult in defining What means Dam HaNefesh? Why? Because when we learn the Gemara, you will not understand the Gemara as it is. Because what? Because when you're gonna read the Gemara, we know that the blood is a circulation. Now, what you have to understand is that we only know that there is a circulation thanks to a certain doctor, a British doctor called William Harvey. And he was born he died in the 17th century, but he is the one that has discovered something very important. They've discovered not long before him that the heart is a pump, and some have already discovered it before a little bit, but still they did not know that there is what we call a circulation. The circulation they did not understand. So they understood something, but they were still in a mystery of where does the blood go. So they understood at some point already that it was a pump, and that the blood was pumping, but then the blood was coming out, went somewhere and disappeared, and new blood was formed. And the problem is that it was so many liters a day that everybody understood that your blood cannot just disappear out in the blue. And so William Harvey, he took it upon himself to find out, and he figured out that there are very little microscopic little veins, that blood that goes out of the heart, which goes all the way to your arm, to your fingers, and then it's joining the veins, which are microscopic small, and therefore you need a blood pressure in order for this blood to go through all these little veins and being sucked again through the other part of the heart that sucks and that pushes, that pumps. And so this is a circulation. That's why for us it's a bit difficult to understand those sugyas, that what do you mean by that? Because if you're going to read Masechtas Chulin, you will have it very difficult. And I'll give you here an example of one of the meforshim on the Rambam to explain which dam is chayiv koros. So he has difficulty. How can we understand the dam that comes out? So Rashi already says something interesting on top here. Misrav Suriv, that the Moshe Hadam mi beis hashchita b'neshimosoi v'koinsoy b'liboy. So the Gemara says that blood that is in the heart is also chayiv koros. Why? Because the blood that is in the beis hashchita, just when he dies, he is actually, before he can come out, there is a bit of the blood that goes into his heart. So that's what Rashi explains. So basically what it seems from Rashi and also from the Meforshim later on, that the view of blood was something that was stationary, not circular, but stationary. And there is a particular kind of a blood, which is either the beis hashchita, so the blood that is in the throat. This is the blood that is called Dam HaNefesh. And this is dam there, and this dam remains there. Exactly, we don't understand that because we know that the blood never remains more than a second in a place. But at the time, they did not know that there is a circulation. And so therefore, the idea is that the blood that is in the beis hashchita is the Dam HaNefesh. And there is another meforesh that brings down, and this is also how the Minchas Chinuch explains, that there is the blood is indeed it is the dam that is by the beis hashchita, and then he explains a little bit further the beis hashchita nekar umizazeh. So he wants to say this meforesh here on the Rambam. He's called Nesivo Chaim. He wants to explain that the ikar problem, the dam is in the heart. The one that is in the heart is the Dam HaNefesh. And he says that when you slaughter behemoth, the dam comes out with a force, and this coming out with a force is a proof that this is the Dam HaNefesh that was in the heart. And so therefore, because he explains that everywhere it's been connected to the heart, so this is already quite advanced, and therefore every time when the animal dies from a blood coming out, it's because it's the heart that pushes it out. So this already was understood. But before that, this was not even understood. And the fact that the blood comes out with force was something which was mystical. Why does the blood come out with the spritz? Where does the spritz, this force, come out? They did not see the heart as a pump. They did not see it. So basically, they did not know that the heart was a pump. This is something which came much later. And so the fact that it comes out with the force must mean that it is dam hanefesh. There is life in there. It moves by itself. So it's alive, the blood. And therefore, this blood is called the dam hanefesh. Today, we understand that it's circulation and that also the blood in the heart is not staying there very long. It's being pumped in and out every second, depending on your on how fit you are. But it's continuously the blood comes in and out. But this is the understanding of the dam hanefesh. Today, the only way that we can explain this is indeed the blood that comes out at the moment that the animal dies. So today we know death is a shutting down of the brain activity, because there is no more blood and there's no more oxygen. And therefore, the blood that comes out is called dam hanefesh because it was the blood that came out at that time. So it is purely a timing element. So you have to take a stopwatch, and you take, when you make the shchita, the first blood that comes out is not the very first, but the one that comes afterwards, Chazal say, because the first one is more of a black dam, and then is the red one that comes out. This is the dam hanefesh, and then it stops. So this is really a matter of timing. But when you look at the explanations of the Shonim, you do see that it is really something that was based on information that was not available at that time. I mean, so they assumed that there is such a concept of a dam which remains on its place, and then only when the animal dies that it comes out. And so therefore, but in any case, it's the idea behind it is that the blood that comes out by the shchita is a holy blood, is something very, very special because it contains life. And so therefore you are taking life and you're putting life back, you give it back to the world, which is the Mizbeach. And that's how you can explain the element of the Zrikes Adam on the Mizbeach. But we need to elaborate a little bit further and to understand how we can understand it today, knowing that what we know today and how this can happen. So the only explanation I can give for the moment is that like I explained the first time, is that after the Churban of the Bayis, there was a tremendous change. As I explained you, there is the Bon Sholem hid behind the Teva. So until then, the Bon Sholem was with the Teva, was in front of the Teva, for Klal Yisrael even more, because we were our chosen people, so we had to be more careful. And therefore, when we do good, we received good. When we do bad, we received bad. So it was the Bon Sholem was much closer to us. And once the first Beis Hamikdash was Chorev, from that moment on, it did not happen anymore. And the Shchina and the Kodesh Baruch Hu kind of, the Kodesh Baruch Hu more kind of hid behind the Teva. And that's a very important element, because the Reach Nichoyach did not exist anymore. That's why they say, some of the Binyan Sin, I think he says, that even like we said last time, that the Chazon Ish says that we would have to bring a korban, but the Reach Nichoyach it won't have. So we will only bring a korban for the simple reason that we want to be Mekayim and mitzvahs aseh from the Taryag. But the effect of the korban as being a Reach Nichoyach does not exist anymore, because the Bon Sholem has hidden behind the Teva. So it's somewhere where we can't even see him. And maybe this is the 8th Galgal that the Rambam explains, which is beyond all the elements. Maybe that's what he means, because he does not give us source for that one. We already explained it to explain why Pesach falls, and how come that Pesach this year also does not fall in the Mazel Tov. How can it be? So he explains, he must explain, that's why he must explain there is an 8th Galgal. But it could be that the 8th Galgal, the 8th sphere, is to explain that the Bon Sholem hid behind there. And so therefore we're living kind of in a darkness. And for us, it's very, very difficult to understand, because we have been used to make an avodas Hashem, not through connecting different worlds, but to connect ourselves. to become an individuality where each and every person, he himself has to connect to Hashem, and he himself is going to be judged and will go to Gan Eden or to Gehenna. So basically there is everything, it becomes very egocentric, and it becomes like a real, what is then called a proper religion, where it is an individual element. Everybody has an opportunity or risk to fail or to succeed. And but that's not the way that things were seen at the time, where everything was more from a national perspective, where it was a whole nation was judged. And as when you are more in a group level, then you have you can bring one thing as a sacrifice to Hashem, as a present to Hashem, and you bring a korban, which is an animal, which is one of the belongings. As doesn't seem fair, but this is how it works. Even though we say always aboni, but the Rebbeinu Shloim, sometimes he can punish a person through his family, through his possessions. I will give grass for your behemoths. So Rebbeinu Shloim sometimes says, even your behemoths I will give. But sometimes if we do averes, then our behemoths will also not receive. So everything that belongs to us in a family, in a group, in a city, the whole city is responsible. You know, the Iranidachas, even if there are some people who are tzaddikim, they all have to be killed because it is they're considered as one unit. And similarly, the whole world is considered sometimes one unit, and it is the whole world with all the animals that are responsible for certain things. And the Korbonoys is like a sacrifice that the animals are giving for the humans in order to appease Hashem, because we are all considered as one big element, as much as we can suffer for the sins of our children, and our children can also suffer for the sins of us. That's why we say, that's why, because from that moment on, when a boy is bar mitzvah, when a girl is bar mitzvah, there's no more the connection. But until then, there is a connection, and there is they both can suffer from each other's sins. So we have a collective. There is what we call a collective responsibility from the whole world, and so therefore, instead of giving children as a sacrifice, we don't do that. This is the Avera that Hashem says, I don't want that. But if you want to bring sacrifice, then, or when the ones that you have to bring, which is the ones for Tomid, then you should bring from the animals as being a representative for life in general, and the mincha is for representing the world of the vegetarian, from the vegetables, the world from the not vegetables, but from the vegetarian world in general. So you have all kind of components from each part that can kind of have a reach nechoyach to the world. So basically, are there any questions so far?
Just a question about the cubicle.
Yes.
You said it does not refer to the universe; it refers to the world
Yes.
in which we live.
Yes.
So they had an understanding that they didn't know that the world is. They thought it had four corners, right?
Yeah, that's my assumption. Yeah.
Yeah, because according to this assumption, Hashem, he knows exactly how the world looks like.
Yeah.
So how could he then say make the Korbonoys, the form of the Korbonoys should be a cubicle? The form of the Mizbeach, sorry, should be a cubicle.
Well, it's symbolic. So either you can explain it purely symbolic. So the whole idea that Abba Kanfes Oretz has a symbolic meaning. I think personally, I've not seen it differently, but we never seen in the Gemara that they speak about the world as being a Kadur Oretz. That's something which was later on discovered. The whole idea is that Rebbeinu always speaks in the language of the people. And so therefore everything he does is based on what was known at the time. That's we spoke already a few times. And the Rebbeinu speak about a Shor Shenogach as a poro, and not about a car that hits a bike So we're speaking about the things that were known and the language that were known, and therefore also the symbolism is also the cube. But the cube has, besides the shape of the world, it has also the fact that there are 6 sides, which there's a lot more to the cube than just the shape of the world. There is much more behind it. The cube is really the 6 sides that is representing the 3-dimension, etc. So I've already spoken a lot about it on Sukkot. That's why we go at the 6 sides. We go with the Lulav and Esrik. So basically, this all is the Mizbeach as being a cube. You see also by the Arabs, they also have this cube. So the cube has, and by the Mitzrim, they didn't have a cube, but they had a pyramid. So a different kind of a shape. So the shape of a cube has much more than just representing the world, but it's in terms of the understanding of the world, could be that it is symbolic of what was known at that time. And it have been used as such to represent the world that they understood at the time. Did I answer you?
Yes, I was just thinking jokingly that now that we know about Kadur Haaretz, which they didn't know at the time, it also explains why football is such a popular sport.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Maybe just a little point regarding the Aron HaKodesh.
Yes.
Because you spoke about electricity, but the Aron HaKodesh itself is a battery.
Yes, very good.
I discovered that when I was a kid in a non-Jewish physics stuff, where they were saying the Jews discovered the battery.
Yes.
So they were speaking about it. So.
Yes, I was in my second year of university engineering, and the professor was speaking about electrostatic, and he was using not the Oren as a battery, because I didn't hear. That's a very good point. Yeah, you could see it as a battery, but when I think it was Usha that he saw I think his name was Usha. He saw the
the Aron falling, and he was stopping it, and he get electricity actually.
And he got electricity, and it was electrified. And I think they probably used both. So your teachers thought as being it was recharged because of the battery, and he said no, it's because of electrostatic. It was highly electrostatic, and he got a shock of it. I think your explanation is actually better, because indeed it's if it was a little bit, if there is a little bit of acidity in the wood for some reason, then you can have indeed an electric current going through. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, so I'm sorry, I will first stop recording. Actually, it's